For all the stick people have given WCW over the years, it's important to remember that sometimes they were actually really bloody good. They didn't beat WWE 83 weeks in a row by accident. Okay, maybe some of it was accidental, but not all of it. For a time, WCW really did know how to build stars and tell stories that people wanted to see, leading to moments that resulted in some legendary pops. Here are 10 to sink your eyes, or ears I suppose, into. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 biggest pops in WCW history. Join us.
But before we start, this video is sponsored by NordVPN. We at Cultaholic truly believe that Nord is the best service of its kind, and if you just give me a minute of your time, I will tell you why. So, I use Nord to sign up for cheaper subscriptions to all of the big video-on-demand services by changing my virtual location to somewhere else in the world. Not just that, but I booked my flight home for Christmas way cheaper with the same cheeky little trick. Or how about saving on some of your favorite wrestling subscriptions? Perhaps a certain sports entertainment network doesn't exist in your country anymore. Stop peacocking around and give Nord a go. Get access to the network of old for a fraction of the price. But it's not just about saving cash. NordVPN is a one-stop shop for all of your cybersecurity needs. It protects up to 6 of your devices from viruses, malware, hackers, personal data theft, and so much more. All this for the cost of a cup of coffee a month. There's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if Nord isn't for you, you can get your money back, no bother at all. It's time to grab our exclusive NordVPN deal by heading to nordvpn.com/cultaholic. A link is in the description below to get a huge discount off of your Nord plan, plus 4 months for free. This offer is only available for a limited time, so head to nordvpn.com/cultaholic now, link in the description, and check it out. Remember, totally risk-free. Enjoy the video.
Number 10, Goldberg's first title win. A former football player turned wrestling icon, Bill Goldberg was one of, if not the biggest stars WCW created on their own. He was booked to perfection, only ever put in short matches to hide his cons. As for his pros, those were his huge power moves and an intangible star power that flowed through his veins like electricity. After knocking out fools left, right, and center during his undefeated streak, Goldberg got his first taste of gold when he faced Raven for the United States Championship. Even with interference from the flock, the grungy one couldn't hold Big Bill back and became the 75th entry in his win column. Goldberg's title win was the start of big things for the man, and the crowd knew it. Their reaction to his victory was a sign of how much they believed in him and how much they wanted him to succeed even more in the future. Spoiler alert, this won't be the only time you see Goldberg winning a belt on this list, but you'll have to wait a little bit before we get to that one. Aren't lists fun? Wink wink. Number 9, Bret's steel plate. Bret Hart's WCW career can be summed up by one noise, and that is someone blowing into their hands to make it sound like a fart. The Hitman debuted in the company as the most talked about wrestler in the industry due to the Montreal Screwjob, but WCW never managed to capitalize on this, and Hart was treated like an upper mid-carder for most of his time there. One of Bret's few great WCW moments happened on March 29th, 1999, when he called out Goldberg on an episode of Nitro from Toronto. He taunted Bill until he snapped and attacked the Canadian hero with a spear. But Bret seemed unharmed, and Goldberg was the one in pain? Say what? Hart got up and revealed his master stroke. He was wearing a metal breastplate under his jersey and had lured Goldberg into a trap. That is brilliant. And then he got on the mic and quit the company. That's less brilliant. Despite the follow-up being mishandled again, the initial reveal of Hart's booby trap was sensational and the fans went insane. Number 8, Rey beats Nash. Kevin Nash is an extremely complicated man. On one hand, he's one of wrestling's most important modern figures and has created extremely memorable moments working across multiple promotions including WWE, WCW, and TNA. On the other hand, he is perhaps one of the most notorious backstage politicers, and he and his clique buddies have derailed more promising storylines and careers than perhaps anyone else in wrestling history. And that is why it's so strange to think that with all the backstage clout he had in WCW, he let little old Rey Mysterio beat him clean on the February 22nd, 1999 episode of Nitro. Rey was coming off the back of losing his mask after Nash and Scott Hall beat him and Conan in a tag match. Motivated by revenge and probably the loss of potential merch sales he had suffered, Mysterio faced off against Big Sexy in a match nobody expected him to win. The huge noise when Mysterio fought out of a jackknife only got louder when the luchador knocked Nash down and scored the upset win. Fans were thrilled to see the beloved underdog get a measure of payback on the big man, and this win helped solidify Rey as a giant killer. Number 7, Flair pins Vader. Limousine riding, jet flying, wife divorcing, Charlotte fathering, coma surviving, never retiring, Ric Flair is one of the greatest wrestling heels of all time. Flair dominated the territory days of the NWA as a multiple-time world champion, going from town to town and making the crowd hate him so that the local babyface would get cheered extra hard. Flair did this to perfection and became a very rich man off the back of it. But that doesn't mean he couldn't also excel as a babyface. The main event of Starrcade 93 saw the Nature Boys square off against WCW champion Big Van Vader in a title versus career match. None of the fans in attendance that night wanted to see Slick Rick go and were on his side the entire time. They were elated when Flair managed to trip Vader up and pin him, winning the championship and keeping his job in one fell swoop. 1993 was a huge year for WCW, with Eric Bischoff coming into the company and then breaking away fully from the NWA. Flair's big win and the huge reaction it got at Starrcade was the perfect way to see it out. Number 6, Dean Malenko returns. Dean Malenko and Chris Jericho had one of the best feuds of the entire year in 1998. The cruiserweights would battle each other in some truly astonishing matches, plus this was the storyline that gave us Jericho's classic Man of 1004 Holds promo. After Jericho beat Malenko for the Cruiserweight Championship at Uncensored, the Iceman took some time away to mourn the loss of his father. In that time, Y2J continued to berate Dean even though he wasn't there. Jericho's always been a class act. Then came Slamboree and a battle royal to determine a new challenger for Jericho's title. It came down to Juventud Guerrera and fellow luchador Ciclope. After shaking hands, Guerrera shocked everyone by jumping out of the ring, eliminating himself. All was then revealed when Ciclope removed his mask and revealed himself to be none other than Hollywood megastar Bruce Willis. Just kidding, it was Dean Malenko. The enormous reaction Dean got not only proved what a star he was, but also how effective Jericho was at building their feud whilst Malenko was absent. Hats off and masks off to both men on this one. Number 5, One Giant Jackhammer. Paul White is good at many things. He's good at crying on command, good at turning face, then heel, then face again, and he's good at yelling "Arrgh!" really loudly. He is also very, very good at making other wrestlers look incredibly strong. Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Braun Strowman, the man formerly known as Big Show has made them all look like monsters. But perhaps the career he gave the biggest lift to was that of Goldberg. Bill was already a few months into his WCW championship reign when he faced Show on an episode of Nitro from November 1998. The Giant, as he was known in WCW, nearly pinned the champion with a huge chokeslam, but all that did was make him mad. In response, Goldberg managed to get the big man up over his head in a vertical suplex position, and he then drilled the Giant with a perfect jackhammer to score one of the biggest pinfalls of his career. The sight of a man that size being suspended in the air like that is something to behold. This match confirmed Goldberg's status as a superhuman and helped continue his championship reign for another month or so until Kevin Nash beat him at Starrcade. That thing about Nash being a notorious backstage politician? Yeah. Number 4, the Horsemen ride again. In April of 1998, Ric Flair was taken off WCW TV after Eric Bischoff filed a lawsuit against him for missing an episode of Thunder. Ric Flair in legal trouble? That doesn't sound right. It took 5 months for the Nature Boy to return to TV, but it was so worth the wait. He returned as part of a 4 Horsemen reunion on an episode of Nitro emanating from Greenville, South Carolina, right in the heart of Flair country. Horseman manager J.J. Dillon called Arn Anderson to the ring, who then summoned his fellow horsemen one by one. With the crowd at fever pitch, Anderson finally called Flair's name. The pop for his music was gigantic. The pop for his first appearance on stage was humongous. The pop when he took hold of the microphone, well, I'm running out of synonyms for really, really big. The moment is made even better by Flair's reaction. He stood there crying in the middle of the ring, overwhelmed by the outpouring of love he was receiving. Number 3, Luga beats Hogan. When Hollywood Hulk Hogan won the WCW Championship at Road Wild 1996, he started the longest heel championship reign in the belt's history. For the best part of a year, Hogan and the NWO held an iron grip on the title, fending off all comers through nefarious, underhanded tactics. Who could possibly be the person to stop this monstrous man and end his time with the title? Enter Lex Luger. The total package earned himself a title match against Hogan, booked for the 100th episode of Nitro. Much like he did on the show's very first night, Luger made history on a Monday night. After fending off NWO interference, Lex got Hogan up in the torture rack and made the champion submit, finally ending the Hulkster's tyrannous rule. The fans went absolutely ballistic for Luger's win. They were desperate to see the NWO lose, not because they were bored of them, but because they were genuinely detestable heels. As for Luger, WCW had done a great job in building him up as a suitable babyface to dethrone Hogan and lead the company into its next stage. Wait, what's that? He lost the belt back to Hogan 5 days later. For the love of God. Number 2, Sting takes on the NWO. One of, if not the defining feud of WCW's Monday Night War's existence was the New World Order versus Sting. After Hogan, Hall and Nash took over the company, Sting, one of its most faithful performers, walked away rather than watch the place he helped build get destroyed. This led to the Icon's greatest ever running as a rafters-dwelling, face-paint-wearing vigilante. He would stare down below as the madness unfolded beneath him, silently watching but never interfering. That was until Uncensored 1997. After the Order won a 3-team match in the show's main event, Sting descended from above, Tom Cruise style, landing in the middle of the ring. It wasn't immediately obvious whose side he would be on. Everyone else had joined the NWO, so why not Sting? But he soon made things very clear when he took down the baddies to an absolutely thunderous ovation from the crowd. Sting's return confirmed his status as a good guy and gave the fans a hero who might actually have a shot at standing up to the New World Order. Seriously, this is one of wrestling's all-time greatest comebacks and set in motion a chain of events that would change WCW forever. Number 1, Goldberg wins the big one. Bill Goldberg was a totally legitimate and not at all inflated 110-0 in matches when he demanded a title shot against Hollywood Hulk Hogan on the July 6, 1998 episode of Nitro. Hogan agreed, but on the condition that Goldberg first beat Scott Hall. A few minutes later, he was 111-0. In the show's main event, in front of a crowd of 40,000 people, Goldberg put Hogan down with a classic spear jackhammer combination to win his first and only WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The size of the crowd helped contribute to the size of the pop, and the fact that it took place in Atlanta, where Goldberg was well known from his football playing days, certainly helped too. All that to one side though, this match was extraordinary. Here were two of the biggest stars in wrestling at the time, fighting for one of the industry's top prizes. On paper, this was a match of epic proportions. In the ring, it more than lived up to the hype. Goldberg was so popular at the time, and Hogan was so detested as a heel. And this magical combination led to this iconic moment and the loudest crowd reaction in the history of WCW.